chicks this year.
Mm.
All the other families, the chicks were gone. And
Yeah.
it was either giant snapping turtles in those areas. I've seen those big turtles, or all the eagles. And one of actually somebody who was a couple years behind Jay Mager at Cornell, Dr. Jesse Ellis.
Oh,
Oh,
sure.
I know Jesse. We
Dr.
went to school
Jesse,
together.
yeah, Dr. Jesse Ellis was watching that family that had two, and within a week or two, the one chick was gone.
Mm.
So anyway, I'll be quiet. Thank you, Kathy, for letting me ask those. You know, I have like 10 questions to ask Jay Mager, and I got to try to hit him up.
Maybe that's what we should do in November. Have one of those things where we just ballpark everything and go. But we had some plans for this week, so we should probably move forward. And get started. I've got the recording on, and welcome everybody to Den. Now, Sherry, I noticed you're wearing orange today, which is lovely to see. In Canada, it's Orange Shirt Day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes,
Associated with Truth and Reconciliation?
It's Truth and Reconciliation Day. So because of that, I don't normally do this for just a meeting, but I thought I'd start today with a land acknowledgement, just because it is the day for Truth and Reconciliation. It's a day to reflect and honor the children who never returned home and the survivors of residential school system. So I'm going to start by putting a couple links in the chat, and you can use those to figure out where you are in the lands and of the first peoples of North America. And there's another one if you ever want to do some learning on your own. I've added a link there for a really good article on unconscious bias that is a brand new webinar that was done last week. And then for my land acknowledgement, I'm personally at home, which is on the northeast of Long Point on Lake Erie, and that's the locations of the lands and unceded territories of the Haudenosaunee, the Adirondack, the Anishinaabe, and the Mississauga peoples. And I'm also within the area of the 1792 Treaty 3, which is sometimes called the Between the Lakes Treaty. So all across North America are Turtle Island, and the First Peoples communities have had a direct relationship with the land that they cared for and they stewarded for millennium. And there's one treaty that I really resonate with, so I wanted to share it with everybody. And this is between several First Nations. It's not with settler communities. And this is a one dish, one spoon wantum, which basically the gist of it is there is one dish that is their area, the hunting lands that all must eat out of, and there's one spoon that is the hunting lands that they all must feed with. So, and this is a wampum, which is a treaty belt between the Haudenosaunee, the Mississaugas, and Anishinaabe. And the three teachings from it is that we only take what you need, you keep the environment clean, and you leave some for the future generations. And I feel those three still apply in what we're all trying to achieve today. So I wanted to share that with everybody. And like I said, I put up the native land. If you guys want to take a look sometime and see where lands are near where you are, feel free. I won't spend too much time on that. I just wanted to share that and then go to our talk. We have about 12 people here today. And what I had hoped to do is we have several subcommittees that have not moved forward. And the steering committee felt it might be a great idea to split us all up into breakout groups and to have people attend a little breakout group. There's no long-term commitment here. This is just go to this breakout group today and then help get some things on paper about what we're doing for these meetings. And I'm going to put the meeting notes link in the next, and hopefully you guys can open it, because I think once we go to breakout group, you lose track of everything that I post in this website here, if I recall correctly. And I've done very few breakout groups on my own, so I could be wrong. So that meeting notes in it will tell you what the three groups are. And what we have is a lead subcommittee. I'm doing a wake boat subcommittee, and Jay help finds Loon's a home subcommittee. Now I've asked Mark to work with Natasha on lead. She's going to look after the lead one. The reason being, I understand that the rescue and rehab also is doing some lead work. So there's some synergies. And what I'm hoping that we come back with is just a basic objective. What do we want to achieve in the next 4 to 6 months on this? What do we want as a product? Do we want bullet points? Do we want a 4-page presentation that people can put into talks? What product and what do we want to achieve with this in a short period of time? Kind of set up a first meeting date to get things moving, and then potentially a short list of how to move forward with it. And I think I'm going to give us about 25 minutes. I'm hoping that's enough. So before we go in, does anybody have any questions? Or am I just totally confusing everybody?
No, I think you had described that in your earlier email, so this is a
Yeah.
good follow-up. What I did want to say is we're due to go till 5. I'm probably going to have to leave like 5 or 10 minutes early, and I just wanted to apologize ahead. I got to have a couple of things before the next meeting.
That's fair enough. I think we should be able to just stop at 5, but we never make it. And so I will share that information with you guys, and we'll start the breakout groups. If I have this set up right, you can just go to a group on your own when I put the breakouts up, and you can just choose what you want. Now for myself, I'm going to be the last one that goes to a group. The reason being is that I want to make sure everybody else gets to a group. And we'll see how that goes. If you don't have a group, hopefully just message me maybe, and we'll make sure you get to one somewhere. All right, I'll start the breakout groups now. All right. You guys see it? Can you grab a room?
I see down at the bottom under more, I'm on a Mac, and so under more, there's something that says breakout rooms.
Okay.
And when I click that, then I can see the 3 groups and I can join the one that I want to join.
Okay, so you go to more. Okay.
I go to more down at the bottom, and then there's breakout rooms.
And slowly people are leaving.
Where can you help me find? Sorry.
Who is this who's talking?
Tracy.
Tracy. All
Yeah.
right, Tracy. If you go to the bottom, there's a little circle with 3 dots. It says more.
Oh, I do. Okay, there we go. Got it.
Okay. Arlene, how are you doing? Okay, so Arlene and Laura, the last 2 here. Arlene, I'm going to assign you to one and drop you in. Laura, I'm going to do the same with you.
Yeah, I can do it, but
Oh, it looks like you've done it. No?
No, well, I haven't done anything. I'm just not sure which group to join. That's it.
Well, it's up to you. If you have a topic that you'd like to be in, go ahead. It's I'll be in mind. I'll be in the wake boating one, and you're welcome to join me or either one, whichever your preference is.
There's no one in your group.
No, there is not, which is weird. But just fine. All right. Well, you want to join me, and we'll just make it very Canadian. Okay.
We could do that.
So we had one, Natasha was doing one on lead, and Jay was handling one on platforms. And then I was doing one on wakes, but the wake one was somewhat unsuccessful. There was only two of us on it. So wasn't a good group to actually talk. Well, it'll have to come up again another day. But they should be coming back in any minute now, I would think.
Okay, sounds good. It looks like it's just a beautiful day, probably everywhere. So that's why I'm late.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. You're allowed to have beautiful days. Like enjoy life while you can.
Yeah, that's true.
And they actually have a fair number in the platform one. So I could see them running out of time.
Okay,
I think the more people you have in the working committee, the subcommittee, the longer it takes to get decisions made.
awesome. Great.
Now you are in on a
I'm in-
lake in Maine, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, you would have been a good one in the Wind You Awake one because you've had some experience with that.
Yeah, we had a very active person who did a lot of outreach and research, Don Griggs.
Yeah.
He's on our lake, and he in Maine did get a legislation, didn't get quite what they wanted, but 300 feet, I think.
Doing legislation for us in Canada is, well, first it'll take 10 years.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They've have some laws in play right now where they're changing the way they're defining power on the lake, and that may be a bigger deal because I think wake boats that require more power on the
Right.
boat.
Right.
So that may have better opportunity to limit things than having a distance law.
Mhm.
But we'll have to wait and see. Now,
Well, yeah, I think depth of the lake is important. Like I'm on a lake, portion of a lake that's only 10 feet deep, so that's essentially prohibits most lake boats, wake boats.
yeah, it would. Well, I think people will start coming back in now. I see Eric. Oh, yep, here they come. I kicked them all out of the breakout groups, probably when they were in mid-sentence.
Okay.
So did you guys actually get a warning that you were going to have to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's good. It was supposed to. What are your thoughts? Was 25 minutes too long?
Mm-mm.
Nope, not enough time. Okay. So is everybody back in? Oh, we've lost a few people. It looks like Natalie's group is still going here. How do I kick the how do I get them coming
Now there
back?
they come.
Here they come. Okay. Move to so we have everybody back here. Is Denise and Maddie and Mark and Natasha back? I see Maddie, so I'm going to assume you guys are back. All right.
There's no time.
We'll move on. So first off, did you guys find that productive? Is that something that works in this environment, or is just too sudden? Okay, well then why don't we discuss by having a bit of a summary of everything, and we'll do them in order. Natasha, do you have anything to share from your group?
Yes, I put some notes on the meeting agenda, and I think that worked to share what we wrote. The four of us had a really good convo about where we could start. Mainly thinking about how in each state and Loon organization we all have programs that we're doing typically, or education pieces that we are have already created or are working on or continuing to work on related to lead. And so perhaps for this group, what we could do is to compile a educational piece, where people can find information in each region, so that if they were wanting to learn more about another state, what they do, they can find information on their regulations or their policies, or perhaps, a starting point for if, say you're from Minnesota going to go visit New York State, like what do you need to do to go fishing there, lead-free and loon-safe? What you need to be in mind for, where can you find lead-free tackle there? What groups can you get in contact with? Etc. And Mark pointed out how there's a really great article, I believe in Ambio Journal by Tiffany Grady on that had previously compiled some regulations. And so one of the first steps would be updating previous work, charts that have been created, articles that have been done on current regulations and legislation, getting together a list of all the different types of groups in each state and here in the US or a province in Canada that would be working on these, that are outside of our loony groups, such as one specific nonprofit, maybe American Bird Conservancy, or different park groups or state agencies. And then jumping ahead to number 4, though, we then said on the flip side, we also would want to figure out which groups are our potential opposition groups, or our enemies, as we joked, but not really our enemies, but just folks that we might need to be aware that could be opposing this and need to form talking points. And then moving from there, in addition to talking points, getting some places where people can get started if they'd like to get involved in advocacy, because some of our groups, like our nonprofits, maybe aren't directly involved in advocacy, but we get involved, or we get asked a lot by people where to start. So perhaps it's where can you start just in getting contact to legislators, or where can you get started on that end? And at the same time, if you want to just get involved in your community, how could you get started on just in your local area? For example, can you get in contact with a community group like a Lions Club and have them and talk to them about switching to lead-free tackle for a kids fishing day, for example, that these groups might host. And then lastly, just working on conversation starters for talking about lead, have a productive discussion with people that, or maybe from those potential opposition groups, or talking to your neighbors that aren't on the same, wavelength as us, but wanting to help that conversation move forward. Since, of course, people are very passionate about the area, but we want to make sure that we're having these productive discussions and emphasizing that we're working with people and not encouraging people not fish, Mark said, but do so safely for loons. We talked about a lot of different things going on there, but that was the main gist. And anyone else from the group can feel free to add in any things that I might have missed from our discussion, but pretty much got wrapped up to the end of that for our time right now.
So from the looks of it, your main goals for the group and the lead work would be more along the idea of advocacy, moving towards law versus education by the sounds of it. Would that be correct? You're more like standard information for advocacy is what you're aiming for?
I don't know if necessarily just advocacy, but information on what's happening in different areas, in one area where people, in one educational piece, and directing people to the different like local and regional resources for learning about lead-free tackle in that state. And then one of our action steps was where people can get started for getting involved in advocacy, but we were also talking about just ways that we could work on community organizing, like at the local level, and just getting lead-free tackle-based events for your community. So I wouldn't say it's just the advocacy point, but that would be one of the components of it. Since some of our groups can't be directly involved in advocacy, but if people ask us questions, we want to have resources for them for where someone could go and get started. Makes sense.
Yeah, okay. do you have an immediate next step, or is it more of a case where this is something people have to go and think about and decide like next meeting what the first step is? That
Yes, we had a very good first convo, and then we would want to get together, find our next meeting point, and then go from there to figure out what the first step would be. Maybe look down at these action steps and refine them and get everything fine-tuned before we can get the timeline going.
okay, thank you. Anybody else have questions for Natasha and her group, or any of her group want to add anything? All right. Well, I can represent the next group, which was very small, and that was the wake boat subcommittee. And it was just myself and Laura in that meeting. And we lasted about 5 minutes and we made a short list and we decided that we'd go and see what other meetings we're doing. The first question I have is whether just by providing the education of everybody in the last few months, whether that's what we needed as a group for wake boats, and we're now ready to handle things within our own organizations. But we did make a little list, and I'll share it. Maybe what I'll do is I will drop it in like I'll drop it in like the Natasha did and put it in that main meeting notes here below Natasha's. And I'll share that. So our biggest thing is we didn't get too far because we felt with the two of us we couldn't decide exactly what targets were. Who did we want to target for lead work, for wake work? And that would be the first thing we had to do is figure out what the targets, or if there's different targets, and then move forward with what products we wanted. So that's our first idea, is we have to figure that one out. So ideally we were thinking we need a meeting in mid-November where we actually have people on a committee, and then sit down and start reviewing past notes and decide what our targets were and our goals and our products with more than just two of us involved. Then come up with a list of the problems that we can educate on wake, and a list of the solutions for wake boats in that issue, and then decide based on all those things what our product's going to be and how we're going to distribute. And that was as far as we got with the two of us. We just felt we couldn't go too far without getting more people involved, because we weren't sure what the needs of people were at the organizational level. And that's about all I have to share. Does anybody have, it was very quick. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. Next, Jay, we're
I
over to
think Eric
you.
was saying something, but he's
Oh.
muted.
Eric, did you have something to say? Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I'm muted. Here we go. I was just thinking, contacting individuals or find out who's already had some experience in gathering information about wake boats, or having to use loons as an issue, or as a reasoning, whether it's within your own region, state, whether it's a policy, whether it's state rules. And I'm sure we've all had slightly different experiences. So there might be a way to get some existing stuff from the people who've already had to try to track it down. Like, what information would be helpful in testifying in rulemaking?
So
I've been facing
again, so you're relating again to rulemaking, okay?
Well, I mean, it might be anything. It might be, I'm not sure where every state is at in dealing with wake boats and regulations around them. Every state's probably at a slightly different level. And so we might all have slightly different levels of input that might help guide what's needed sooner than later.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, everybody can look at, we had several presentations on the topic, but they were specific for certain areas, and people can watch those as well in the YouTube recordings. Okay, I got that down. Thank you, Eric. Anything else? Okay. Over to you then, Jay.
Well, thanks. I don't know if it was because of my lack of organization, but we were able to get through, I think, a good chunk of the first charge, and that was to talk about basic objectives. But in doing so, I think our group really found out that there's a lot of, like everything else, I guess we've been talking about, to Eric's point about wake boats, very different degrees by which platforms have been used and the regulations state by state or province by province by which they're being used. But like Natasha, I tried to write up real 3 points really quick. And if I can, I'll try to share my screen. Can everybody see that? Yes, is that seeable? Okay, I can see your lips moving, Kathy, but I can't hear you, but I'm guessing you said yes, you can see it? Are you muted?
I said I could see it, but I was
Okay.
going to tell people how to make it larger. If you hit control and you use
I
the
think
little scroll button, it'll get
yeah.
bigger.
Can I do that too? How about that?
That's very big.
Okay. I guess a discussion sort of went into really 3 objectives that I don't know if they're definitely set in stone yet, but nevertheless, one of the things that we decided that we need to discuss more would be the, thinking about guidelines and best practices regarding when, why, and where Nest platforms should be used, and then consequently at what point they should also be removed. And then secondly, to provide guidelines, best practices in order to monitor and manage the use of platforms and the scale at which they should be managed and by whom that management should take place. And then sort of associated with that, because we're all coming from different places and different backgrounds and different interests, from the individuals who are actually figuring out if they should, as a private state landowner, put a platform out, to those of us who are, at higher levels of management, trying to coordinate all these activities, begin to think about the diversity of those who are involved with using Nest platforms across the breeding range, whether it be maybe a state by state or a province by province level, so that we can begin to ask some questions with respect to sort of like wake boats, degree at which platforms are regulated or not regulated in terms of their use. And I think we can, based upon that worksheet that I think we set up in Google Docs a while back, people have put another number of comments in there that would fall under any of these 3 categories. And I'm going to try to disseminate that into sort of an outline so we can begin to have that discussion. But I also think it might warrant doing another sort of Google Form survey of all the members of our working group to begin to glean some of this information so that we can begin to kind of organize it and move from there. Again, because our interests and our investments are so different. Let's see. I can't think of anything else at this time. I've decided I'll try to throw everybody a Google when to meet sort of document to see if there is a time we can all meet sort of on a bi-weekly basis to sort of get in touch with one another and have discussions. So I don't think a meeting date has been set. And our actions, I think we'd like to have some type of white paper or some type of general guidelines for various individuals, whether again it be the person putting the platform out to individuals that are trying to oversee platforms and their use and their success on sort of best practices to also manage. So I kind of see 2 things at a management level as well as at a sort of best practices level for individuals. I hope I described that well. Working group, let me know if there's anything you'd like to add or if I've misspoken on anything. Did I articulate that okay? And I'll stop my sharing.
Perhaps you could send a link to your notes, Jay, and I'll add them to the system.
Yeah, I think it's already the one we have.
Okay.
So it's that one you sent, I just added what I just sent to you. That's in that folder that you have. And once
Okay.
we get the outline going, we will. And it's my job to get the group together. And I'll send a larger memo out to the working group, I think, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who aren't here today that might also be interested in being a part of this. So I want to make sure I open that door.
You had a good group today. It was quite big.
Yeah, and they're all great. So I feel kind of probably not the right person to lead it, but nevertheless, I hope I got it going.
So it sounds like 2 of them had great meetings. I think, which is great to hear, and I'll make sure all the notes are in places that people can get at. Jay and Natasha, did you find this setup worked well for getting things moving, or do you find it just added hesitation?
I think it worked well to get the conversation going today and get the subcommittees
Okay.
refreshed and started.
All right. So we don't have time. It's four. What happened to the day? It's 4:54. So next steps for actions for us, I will obviously send out some notes. I will send out notes. I will leave it to Jay and Natasha to do actions for the groups. And I might follow through like you. I haven't decided yet, Jay, but I might follow through like you and do a request for more people to join the Wake One and or a survey about what legal information is out there. There's a fair bit in that one talk we had about the different legal information the Greenfire did. So I don't want to overwhelm because it is a highly overwhelming topic in some ways, but I will certainly do something that way as well. And sorry, I'm typing at the same time. And I think that's about it for now on that. Now, Mark wanted to mention something about the Loon Digital ID project. We'll push that back till next week. And any topics in this small group that's left as everybody leaves for next October? Do you guys just want to do a roundtable, or do you want to work on this some more, or what do you have in mind for October?
Well, I think my group, we can discuss a little bit more sort of what we started today at another meeting, with maybe within 2 weeks. Maybe by that time I can sort of organize sort of a generalized idea, and then also, seriously think about a survey of our membership, to see if we can get information from all of our groups to begin to think about in what type of framework do we want to start writing some things up.
Okay. All right. And that doesn't help us with, I don't think that helps us with October yet, but I'm not sure. We'll have a steering committee meeting and we'll go on that. We should also, and we should plan on that. So I will send the steering committee folks a doodle out to plan a meeting, and maybe we'll see if we want to invite a couple people, because we have lost 2 important members to the steering committee and who kept us going, and we'll go from there. Anything else, Jay and Natasha, you think we should discuss before we go?
No, I guess I say if anybody wants to be on the steering committee of the entire stewardship group, I'd love to have any volunteers that might be willing to think about helping us in the direction in which the group goes. I'm not speaking out of context.
And for reference, that usually requires about 3 more emails a month and maybe 4 meetings a year. I think that's about all we do, isn't it, Jay?
Yeah, unless I find a lot of value in this group. And so if there's a different direction that you think we should be going, or not necessarily different, but something that we should be taking the lead on, I'm totally on board with that too.
Yes. And maybe when I send out the notes this week, I will also send out the goals and objectives of the organization. Somebody was asking me the other day if we were doing messaging on regular boat wakes, which I kind of surprised, because I felt that we had handled that with last year's standardized document. But I will send that out to people as well with the goals and things in the next minute, so that people are reminded what our goals are, and we can plan forward that way as well. Yeah. All right. Well, then I guess if that's the case, I guess we can say goodbye. Thank you everyone for attending. I hope that it was a functional meeting, and we'll see you all about something in October. Okay. Wear your Halloween costumes next time.